Hello and welcome to my Zuk guide teaching you how to get your upgraded kiln capes and how to get a flawless run to unlock hard mode. Whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax and enjoy. This boss is a serious challenge, so you're going to want to have high combat stats, 95 plus prayer and curses unlocked, 96 plus herbal for overloads, and at least level 68 plus summoning for a beast of burden. Here's a list of a bunch of useful things you could bring along in your preset to make the entire boss fight easier. And not just easier, by having some of these items you can make a flawless run much more achievable with less skill. In terms of gear setups, I have 3 examples. Now I highly advise against using melee here because it's simply much more difficult. The best you could do is use one combat style with DPS gear and an obsidian helmet, or you can use animate dead in combination with magic tank armor to reduce incoming damage. Or if you really want to, you can also hybrid by using 4 pieces of obsidian armor, therefore giving you 40% damage reduction inside. But keep in mind that obsidian armor actually does have a far lower defense bonus, which means you'll be taking more hits anyways, even though those hits will be dealing less damage. Now one thing you might notice is that I'm using an Essence of Finality in all the 3 setups, and that is because it's very powerful to use here. Using a dark bow spec for ranged or the Govik staff inside the Essence of Finality for magic will make this entire fight a lot easier as well. A Vampirism aura is highly recommended as it saves you a ton of food, making a flawless run again much easier. Onyx Criminal Bolts E are useful for range to save even more food. If you're looking at using a god book, the Scripture of Gwen is great here. And if you're looking at that ring, that is of course the TzKal Zuk for 10% more damage. Now I use this inventory every time I go in. But what you need to remember is that you really just want to focus on having your overloads in there, some weapon poison, some sourdough and brews, but at least 5 super restore flasks. You're going to need these for prayer and for Zuk, as he drains your constitution level. If you're using range, you probably want to bring along some mechanized enchompers to AoE down some of the mobs, and actually a long range weapon is very useful here as well. It doesn't have to be an SGB, you can use a Zarat bow or something, but just using Ascension crossbows might bring you into some trouble because sometimes the range is just too low. You'll see what I mean later on in the video. It's not a requirement, but it does help. Much like everything else in this inventory, Planet Feet Switch, Ring of Vigor, Replenishment Potion, Large Rune Pouch for runes for Disruption Shield, Power Burst of Vitality, that red potion, which I would recommend bringing along no matter what, because it's useful for the final boss. A shield with Turtling 3 is very important if you want to get yourself a flawless run, and if you want to survive wave 15 without trouble as well. Hydrix Criminal Bolts, again useful for the final boss, and that's pretty much it, guys. You can get there by using your PVM hub teleport, or alternatively using your Pontifex Shadow Ring and simply heading north. Or if you don't have either of those, or you don't have a kill yet so you can't activate the portal in the PVM hub, simply teleport to the Archaeology Guild using your Archaeology Journal, head towards this entrance, go inside and enter down the massive hole you can see nearby the entrance. Alright, so this is a wave by wave boss, and there's a total of 18 waves including the Zuk boss fight. The waves in green you can see have a checkpoint in case you die after having started that wave, which means if you die double jads in wave 11, you can restart there, although it won't be a flawless run and you won't get the cape upgrade if you die. For the majority of the waves, you're simply going to be using this exact location you can see on screen, which is known as the Southeastern Rock. This can be your one and only safe spot to use, although for some waves it might be best to move around a little bit, stack up the monsters differently, and then finish them off that way. But if you really want to use one save spot, this can be your go-to save spot, with maybe the exception of 1 or 2 of the Jad waves. Now there are these geysers you can see on screen, and these will deal magic damage to you if they do end up erupting. Now this damage can be reduced by using the Pontifex ring, but if you don't have the passive upgrade, I wouldn't recommend bringing it along because it's a waste of your inventory space. You can move out of the way of these geysers when you're taking damage, or simply use Devotion and Pray Magic to reduce the damage to 1. Now before we get into the waves, I do want to mention that there's a couple of different monsters inside this arena that have special abilities. Most of them can really be ignored, but you want to focus fire the little birds which drain your prayer, the rangers that get more and more damage the longer they stand still due to their passive, which you want to move around if they have high stacks, let's say 100, because then they lose their stacks, and the big mages which apply a burn to you which can be reduced by using the freedom ability. Now you also need to know about these igneous monsters which spawn on wave 4, the golem, wave 9, the ranger, and wave 14 the major. You need to stun the golem to deal damage to it properly, you need to use a threshold on the ranger before you can deal damage properly, and you need to get close to the shield of the major before you can do proper damage as well. Waves 1, 2, and 3 are fairly straightforward. You want to use your safe spot, or if you don't need it, simply run around, stack up the golems and other trash mobs and finish them off. If one of those birds attacks you, start killing it immediately because it will drain your prayer. If you ever end up getting attacked by multiple creatures, let's say 2 rangers and 1 major, finish off the major while praying range. This is logic you should apply to every single wave in this fight. The big melee guys hit really hard, but they're also fairly easy to safe spot, and if you leave them alive, safe spotted that is, without them attacking you, you can soul split on them at the end of each wave to heal back up to full. On wave 4 you'll encounter your first igneous golem. Simply stun it, and then you'll be able to do more damage to it. One thing I noticed during this wave using range is that it's pretty hard to chin the bigger golems and also hit the smaller golems at the same time. That's why I usually stun the bigger ones and then chin down the smaller ones to kill them all at the same time. Although you don't even need to do that because you can ignore all the smaller ones, simply kill about 3 or 4 of the igneous ones, and then click the special action button, which will be highlighted in orange, to kill off everything else in the entire wave. Now you don't want to do this straight away unless you're ready to go and deal 50,000 damage on Zuk, because as you do this, Zuk will become vulnerable and you'll be able to deal 50,000 damage to him. If you aren't able to deal 50,000 damage in the short time frame required, you will have to redo wave 4 and then finish off Zuk afterwards. Once he hits 550k life points after 50k damage, you will have your first challenge wave, which you will want to have adrenaline for if you want to do a flawless run. This is why using Har-Aken criminal bolts is so incredibly useful. You're going to need to kill off all of these minions as quickly as you can, otherwise, once their bar reaches full, you'll take a massive hit. Let's say you're watching this and your DPS isn't that good, or you don't have an Essence of Finality, or you're using magic and you can't get enough adrenaline. Well, in that case, sip your power burst of vitality just before the bar reaches full, as it will double your HP, effectively reducing the damage by 50% of that big typeless hit blast. The next wave is wave 6, and it will feature a jad spawn in the south. Now you can use the southwestern spot, but you can also use the southeastern spot depending on your own preference. I do think the southeastern spot is a little easier because it allows you to kill off some of the monsters and then focus down Jad and one little prey bird boy. Remember, when Jad stands on his hind legs, it's a magic attack. If he stomps the ground, it's going to be a ranged attack. Now waves 7, 8 and 9 are going to be a little harsh on your food because you'll be taking more damage. This doesn't mean these waves are necessarily hard, but they are going to be a little bit painful. You can use different safe spots around the arena and drag monsters around to make them easier to chin down. If you want to keep it simple, just stick to the southeast wave and maybe use some food. On wave 9 you'll encounter the igneous rangers, which require a threshold before you'll be able to do a lot of damage to them. Much like wave 4, if you want to make it quick, you can focus down the igneous rangers and then simply press the special action button to kill everything else and make Zuk vulnerable again, because during this wave, or after this wave I should say, you can deal 50,000 damage to Zuk again. If you fail to succeed at dealing 50,000 damage, you'll have to repeat wave 9. If you want to get a flawless run and you're using range, which is the easiest style to do it with in my opinion, you want to equip your Har-Aken criminal bolts E right now. Not only do you need to DPS down Zuk, but you also need to DPS down a minion in wave 10, which is a challenge wave. Keep in mind that if you want the cape, you don't need to successfully do every challenge. All you need to do is not die for the entire run. Now, the wave 10 challenge wave is really just you dropping a Death Swiftness or Sunshine if you're using magic and DPSing him down with high hitting magic or ranged abilities, because everything that hits below 3000 is soaked up by this minion. It has 20,000 health, and if you destroy it in time, it will grant a successful challenge kill. Without Death Swiftness or Sunshine, this is pretty tricky, and that's why I also recommend using range anyway, because Har-Aken criminal bolts give you extra adrenaline when they proc, allowing you to use thresholds much more quickly. Having access to Limitless also makes this easier. If you see that you won't be able to make it in time when the bar is almost full, sip your Power Burst of Vitality to double your HP, effectively reducing the damage from the big bomb hit by 50%. We're then on to wave 11, the double jab wave, which you do want to spend in the northwestern corner of the arena using this exact same safe spot. All you need to do during this wave is focus down the jads. Just kill the jads and then worry about killing the monsters. Don't even worry about the prayer bird, just kill the jads, take it easy, kill them one by one, and then you're done really. That's all it is. It isn't that difficult, you just need to keep your cool. For waves 12 and 13, you can simply head back to your southeastern safe spot rock, but you can also use the northwestern rock which you just used for the jads. I personally found this to be a pretty decent spot for waves 12 and 13, as long as you focus down the ranger first and then focus on the major. Be sure to use devotion as often as you can to reduce incoming magic damage, and freedom the burn of the big major. Now you did see me taking a bunch of damage there, and that was because I didn't have devotion on cooldown, and the geyser was actually burning me as well. A little unlucky, but since you're praying magic, that damage is already reduced a little bit. Now for wave 14, it doesn't necessarily matter where you start. You can start in the northwestern corner, in the southwestern corner, southeastern corner. It doesn't really matter that much. You're going to need to focus down the igneous mages, which have a shield around them. If you stand close to them, perhaps a melee distance, you can actually take down the shield and deal proper damage to them. After this phase, you will again have a challenge, so you want to be sure to have 100% adrenaline, especially for this one because it's really easy to mess this one up and actually die. With ranged, I found this to be one of the safest methods to get this challenge done, because using hardest criminal bolts and SGB, you can just brr down Zuk, build on him again, get close to 100% or actually have 100% and simply barricade this phase as soon as you see the first hit coming towards you. A regular barricade won't last long enough, I believe, so you need to have the turtling perk, at least turtling 3 or so, and maybe the Malatops player and farm perk. But yeah, you're going to want to have at least a 12-second barricade. You can actually resonance the first hit or use disruption shield if you'd like to, and then barricade. You can also pray afflict to reduce the damage, but if you want a flawless kill, you'll need to take 0 damage, which can easily be done by using barricade. By the way, if you didn't already see it from the footage, the blue hits are magic hits, the ranged hits are green, and the brownish hit is a typeless hit, which can hurt pretty badly if you don't use resonance or disruption shield, just saying. For wave 16, head straight back to the northwestern safe spot because you're going to be using this for the triple jad wave, which is probably less intimidating than you think. It's simply a matter of prayer flicking and attacking them one by one, or if you really want to fight them for fun, you can stand in the middle of the room and they will attack you off tick, meaning you can prayer flick all 3 of them and take them out one by one that way. But really guys, play it smart, don't attack all 3 at once, it's just a risk of you ruining your flawless run. On the final jad, you probably want to build up to 100% adrenaline because wave 17 is going to be Har-Aken. The reason you want to do this is because as soon as Har-Aken's head pops up, you'll have about 40 to 41 seconds to deal as much damage to him as you can. And it's very much possible to one-cycle him as well. Using vulnerability bombs for this part of the fight is highly recommended. The one thing you want to watch out for are these yellow blobs that launch into the air and hit you. If they hit you, your adrenaline will be drained and your adrenaline gain will also be reduced. Keep an eye on those and just move around as soon as you see them launching out of the lava. Now, Har-Aken has a damage reduction mechanic depending on how many tentacles are alive in the arena, so as soon as his head pops down into the lava, about 40 to 41 seconds later, you want to kill as many tentacles as you can to improve the damage you can deal to Har-Aken. Now, while waiting about 58 seconds for Har-Aken's head to pop back up so that you can finish him off, go ahead and run around if you see the message on screen where it says Har-Aken is bombarding you. The reason for that is because you'll get attacked by these blobs that deal typeless damage, and you really don't want to get hit by them because they also again reduce your adrenaline. You can avoid them by simply running in a straight line or surging away. After Har-Aken uses this bombard attack twice, he will pop his head back up and you can finish him off. As soon as you finish him off, the tentacles will keep attacking you, so use them to build adrenaline because right after, Zuk will hop to the middle of the arena and attack you. Zuk is by far the hardest part of the fight and he has 450,000 life points. He uses the attack rotation on screen, which has a special attack in between every 3 auto attacks. Zuk mainly uses melee auto attacks, but he will also attack you with magic if you move too far away from him by kiting him around. These magic attacks kind of make your character stop in a weird way, kind of like rooted in place for like a tick. And then you can keep moving, not really sure why. But yeah, try to avoid cutting him around. Now, if you get him down to 100,000 life points, it doesn't matter where he is in the attack rotation, he will restart right at the burn. This is important because you'll know what HP to aim for after the first fire pizza. Start off the kill by dropping your ultimate, which would be Death Swiftness when using ranged. Use freedom as soon as Zuk stabs you with a fiery blade, as this is the burn attack, which will constantly deal magic based damage to you. By using freedom early, you'll be able to use it again when needed. His next special attack after 3 auto attacks will be Sear, which will hit you once for melee and twice with magic damage. You are able to flick if you tick perfect and reduce the magic damage. The Seer attack will also start draining your constitution level, so be sure to sip those super restores quickly. The more debuff stacks you have due to this attack, the harder your stat drain will be. By moving around, you can reduce the amount of stacks. You can also tank it, sip some restores, and then once the next special comes, known as Quake, surge forward because you need to avoid that as well. You need to avoid the little cracks on the ground because if they do end up hitting you, you will get another one of those magic burns, which you don't want to have happen because your freedom will probably still be on cooldown. 3 auto attacks after Quake, you have the Magic Bomb, which I definitely recommend using Debilitate or Reflect for, and perhaps sipping your Power Burst of Vitality to double your HP as well. It's also possible to use Disruption Shield to reduce the incoming damage as well. 3 auto attacks after the Magic Bomb, Zuk will move to the middle of the arena. At this point you want to build as much adrenaline as you can on him and use Anticipation if you don't want to get stunned for like a tick or so. This is the Fire Pizza mechanic, and what you're going to need to do is kill 3 different igneous minions. Just like during the regular waves, you're going to need to stun the melee golem, use a threshold on the ranger, and get close to the major. You want to do this as your first attack because you need every single second of your time. To get towards them quickly and not get burned by the fire, which by the way deals rapid magic damage, which you probably won't survive unless your enhanced devoted perk procs, or you're using the devotion ability, which is a viable option if you really can't make it out of the fire in time and you have adrenaline, but try to avoid the fire as much as possible by tab target cycling or clicking on the monster and then using your surge. Alternatively, Bladed Dive also works. So yeah, you stun the melee golem, you deal as much damage as possible. I also recommend using bleeds if you're not getting him down quickly enough, and then surging away to the next one because, well, you know, he's going to walk, it's going to deal more damage to him, and you might end up killing him afterwards anyways. The ranger requires a threshold. Do not waste your adrenaline by dumping a darkbow spec on it unless you've used the threshold before that, because those do not count as thresholds as they are special attacks and won't allow you to deal more damage. And the mage is really simple, just stand in melee distance and DPS him down. Once he's dead, don't waste your time and start building on Zuk. If you have hard criminal bolts, it's going to be even better because you're going to want 100% adrenaline. However, don't forget to use the special action button because if you do not interrupt Zuk in time, you will get instant killed. And you can only use that special action button if all 3 igneous minions are dead. You have about 10 or 11 seconds before he instant kills you, but I wouldn't risk it. Just let's say take 8 seconds and then press the button, build up your adrenaline with those Har-Aken bolts, and then drop a death swiftness and then just continue the fight from there. Just remember to clear the bleed as soon as you see it on your debuff bar or you see him stabbing you with a fiery blade, as you do not want to take that magic damage. Once you get Zuk down to 100,000 life points, he will restart his rotation from the burn. Just look at the clip on screen. So he used Quake just there, and I'm trying to move around, but he's phased now because he's down to 100,000 life points, which means he'll use 3 auto attacks and then start off from burn again. Now I wasn't paying too much attention to him in this particular kill, which is why you'll see me use Debilitate, because I was anticipating the magic bomb attack, not realizing I was already down to 100,000 life points, phasing the boss. With this knowledge, you'll know exactly what mechanics to expect and when. If you complete a full run where you've successfully done all 3 challenges and you haven't have needed to repeat any waves without dying, you will unlock hard mode. To get the cape upgrades, all you need to do is complete a run without dying and then simply combine the igneous stone with your older kiln cape. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this guide and found it helpful. If you did, leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.